The other one is the American Union, the European Union for the whole of the Americas, and again, totalitarian tiptoe. First, it's NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Now, behind the scenes, they're gathering closer and closer to creating a North American Union between Canada, the United States, and Mexico with one currency. One of the reasons they're demolishing the dollar at the moment is to destroy its credibility and make people more open to replacing it with a North American currency.
We'll end up begging for help.
Yes, that's the idea, problem, reaction, solution. I mean, these people are moving trillions of dollars around the world markets every day. If they want a currency to go down, it goes down. And then you've got, under that edifice, or alongside, isn't there two more to tell you about? There's the African Union, which is already in place, of course, and it's gaining its own centralized administration and army. Of the African Union. You see this in the news now. The African Union troops are going here or there. And the other one is the Asia-Pacific Union, which is designed to be evolved out of APEC, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Free Trade Area.
All right, you didn't carve out the Middle East.
Say again?
You didn't carve out the Middle East, though.
Well, the Middle East is the center of what they want to create, which is a third global conflict. And what they're doing now is creating the circumstances in the Middle East to generate this conflict. And you mentioned earlier about Putin in Russia, etc., and you kind of indicated that it was scripted. Well, you're absolutely right. These people like Putin and the Chinese leadership and the American leadership, etc., they are playing out a script which is only for public consumption. For instance, another thing you mentioned, George, earlier was the Cold War. Well, when you do the research into the Russian Revolution, to start with, it was funded out of America and Britain, not least through a Rothschild bank called Kuhn-Loeb and Company in America. The Rockefellers and all these people, these major elite families, were fundamentally involved in the creation and the development of the Soviet Union, while they were also manipulating the so-called other side in the Cold War. And the Cold War was about creating enormous fear. When people are in fear, they look to others to protect them from what they've been manipulated to fear, and therefore, in simple terms, they give their power away to the very people that have manipulated them to be in fear in the first place. That's what the Cold War was about.
And what's
the war on terror is about?
And David, what's one of the biggest fears of an individual? Take their house away, and that's what's happening here in the United States now.
Yes, I mean, I was writing one of my newsletters the other day for my website about the fact that how stupid can you get that you have a system whereby a basic necessity of life for all, which is a home, a roof over your head, is actually part of the whole economic system, and to the point where it becomes an economic asset. When the prices go up and up and up, it's seen as a good thing for the economy. Well, what about the people who are trying to get on the ladder and get a home? It's not good for them, but that doesn't matter. The whole system is, as you said earlier, what up is down, what's down is up. It's just so topsy-turvy and ridiculous. But again, fear of losing your home, fear of economic disaster, fear of what's happening to your kids, fear of terrorism, it's all this four-letter word. Once you move into a position of being conscious, of realizing that you are not your body, you are infinite consciousness, you lose this fear of not surviving. And once you've lost that fear, they have lost their control over you. It's holding us in body consciousness, in five-sense consciousness, and with all the fears and fears of not surviving that entails, and locking us, as I said earlier, into that reptilian part of the brain, which is all about survival and fear of not surviving. That's the key to holding us in servitude, becoming conscious, moving our point of observation outside of that in terms of our self-identity. Then the fears start to collapse, and that's where we need to go. And that's why, George, they work so hard to keep us in body consciousness a reality, because that's where they can control us. Outside of that, they can't.
Now, I've heard you talk about the control with global conspiracy, but do you get into population control? the wiping out of so many millions or billions.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt they want to reduce the population because it's got out of hand from their point of view, and the fewer they have to serve their interests.
Easier to manage, right?
Easier to manage, exactly. So that is definitely part of it. And one of the other things, George, that I think it's very important that we have to do, and that's not get caught in little game mentality, and we hold our attention on the big game. And let me give you an example of that. When you talk about immigration, so many people jump on the fact that, it's all about racist, or you're xenophobe. No. Let's just go beyond that. Ask yourself the question, why are borders coming down all over the world? Why are borders not being policed as they used to be? Why are the borders throughout Europe coming down, and people from the Eastern European countries like Poland pouring into Britain in vast numbers? Now, this is not being racist or xenophobic, because both those coming in and those who are being subjected to the problems that causes on that scale are both victims, and they're both being manipulated by the same force. Why is it happening? There's all this stuff about Mexico and America, United States, etc. Why? Because the greatest block on this global
agenda,
Orwellian state, and these super states and this world government that I've just described, George, is a sense of national identity. Now, I'm not a nationalist, funnily enough. I'm called Britain because I was born on a piece of land called Britain, and I had to be born on some piece of land or I would have drowned. But I don't identify with being British. I'm infinite consciousness, having an experience in a body that was formed in Britain. That's all. But the vast numbers of people, and I understand it, and so good luck to them, I have a real national identity in terms of who they are. Like a lot of Americans have a big national identity. Now, that is going to be a great force for resistance to having that national control, that national sovereignty destroyed, which is what this agenda is all about. And so what they're doing in country after country after country is bringing different cultures in large numbers into other countries to break down the sense of national identity. Now, it's wonderful that different cultures and different races and people interact with each other, and that's fantastic. But we need to go beyond that and ask ourselves the question, why is it being done? And it's being done systematically to break down a sense of national identity, to dilute the resistance to be having the country encompassed into this global state. And it's exactly the same principle as attacking the dollar and destroying the dollar's value and prestige so that you dilute the resistance to having the dollar replaced by another currency for North America.
It's an assault, David. It's a full-scale assault.
It is, and it's so multi-leveled, and it's so global in the way that these different things are happening everywhere, that we come back to your point earlier. What is the consciousness that ultimately is delivering this incredible coordination? And that's where my work is going now, to get closer and closer to what that is.
This push, why is it appear to me to be so quick? I mean, it's almost as if they have lost patience, that they're on a time scale and they're rushing this. What seemed to be a very methodical, slow method to control, they seem to have, really tried to push this agenda quickly. That's my impression.
Yeah, you're right, and we go back to something I mentioned earlier about the fact that there is a real sense of panic among these people now, because the minds are opening. Human minds are opening. I mean, I'm kind of been a barometer of this, because when I started out this nearly 20 years ago, crikey, I mean, man and a dog used to turn up. But the interest now and the awakening and the way people are having the ability to open their minds to things and concepts that they would have laughed at and just walked away from not so long ago. There is this